They laughed when you spoke your dreams out loud. They doubted every step, every scar, every late night you survived in silence. To them, you were just another failure waiting to happen, a joke they could mock and forget. But pain has a strange way of building monsters out of ordinary people. While they were busy talking, you were busy becoming. Every betrayal sharpened your focus. Every rejection fed your hunger. And now the same people who ignored your name can't escape it. It echoes in rooms you were once denied entry to. Because legends aren't born from comfort. They're forged in humiliation, pressure, and fire. They called you a joke, when all you had were dreams too big for their small minds to understand. Every time you spoke about becoming something greater, they laughed, like your ambition was entertainment for them. They looked at your struggles, your failures, your slow progress, and decided that was all you would ever be. They judged you from the outside without ever knowing the battles you fought in silence. They never saw the nights you stayed awake, questioning yourself, wondering if maybe they were right. They never saw the pressure, the loneliness, the fear of failing, while still forcing yourself to keep moving forward. To them, you were just another person trying and failing. But what they didn't realize is that pressure creates diamonds, and every insult they threw at you became fuel for the fire growing inside your soul. While they spent their time doubting you, you spent your time building yourself piece by piece. You learned how to survive disappointment. You learned how to stand tall, even when life tried to break your spirit. You learned how to turn pain into discipline and silence into focus. And slowly, without making noise, you started becoming the person they once said you could never be. The same people who laughed at your dreams now watch your rise in disbelief because the person they mocked no longer exists. That weak version of you died the moment you stopped seeking their approval. Now, your name carries weight. It walks into rooms before you even speak. It forces people to remember the one they underestimated. And the truth that hurts them most is not your success. It's realizing they witnessed your beginning and still failed to see your greatness coming. Every scar, every rejection, every moment you wanted to quit became part of the story that built your strength. You stopped chasing validation and started chasing purpose. That is why your presence feels different now. You no longer move with fear in your heart. You move with experience, with hunger, with a fire that cannot be taught. Because once a person survives being doubted, betrayed, ignored, and still rises anyway, they become dangerous in the most powerful way possible. You became living proof that people can laugh at your beginning and still be forced to respect your ending. Now the same voices that once mocked your journey speak your name with caution because they know you turned every insult into energy, every setback into preparation, and every painful chapter into a reason to keep climbing higher. They called you a joke, but now you are the name they can't escape, the story they can't ignore, and the reminder that greatness is often born from the people the world underestimated the most. They thought your silence meant weakness. They mistook your patience for fear and your kindness for a lack of strength. Every time you failed, they celebrated too early, convinced that life had already decided your place. They watched you struggle, stumble, and fall behind, while secretly enjoying the idea that you would never rise above the limits they placed on you. To them, you were the person with impossible dreams and no chance of reaching them. They laughed at your vision because they could only see who you were at that moment, not who you were becoming behind the scenes. They never understood that some people grow quietly. Some battles are fought in complete silence, where no applause exists, no support arrives, and no one notices the sacrifice being made. While they spent their energy judging your journey, you were learning how to survive storms they could never handle. Every setback hardened your mindset. Every betrayal taught you how to stand alone. Every sleepless night shaped the discipline that would eventually separate you from everyone who doubted you. There were moments when you almost gave up, moments when the weight of failure sat heavy on your chest and made you question whether the fight was worth it. But something inside you refused to die. Even when life pushed you to your lowest point, a small voice kept reminding you that your story was not finished yet. So instead of quitting, you adapted. You became stronger in silence. You stopped explaining your vision to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped begging for support from those who secretly wanted to see you fail. And most importantly, you stopped letting their opinions control your future. That was the moment everything changed. Because once a person stops seeking validation and starts trusting their own purpose, they become unstoppable. Slowly, your pain turned into power. Your losses became lessons. Your struggles became the foundation for a mindset that could not be shaken by criticism anymore. You started moving differently. You no longer chased attention because you were too focused on growth. While others talked, you worked. While others doubted, you improved. While others laughed, you kept climbing one step at a time. And then one day, the results became impossible to ignore. The same people who once mocked your name suddenly started speaking it with respect. The same people who called you unrealistic now act like they believed in you from the beginning. But deep down, you remember everything. You remember every insult disguised as advice, every moment of disrespect, every time they treated your dreams like a fantasy. And instead of letting that bitterness destroy you, you used it as fuel to rise even higher. That is the difference between people who break under pressure and people who are built by it. You became someone stronger because of the struggle, not despite it. Now your presence carries a different energy because you earned every ounce of confidence through pain, sacrifice, and resilience. People can feel it when you walk into a room. They see the scars behind your eyes, the discipline in your actions, and the quiet certainty in your mindset. You no longer need to prove yourself with words, because your journey speaks louder than anything you could ever say. They called you a joke because they judged your beginning without understanding your potential. But now you have become the very thing they feared most, living proof that underestimated people can rise beyond every limit placed on them. And that truth haunts them because your success forces them to confront their own failure, to recognize greatness when it stood right in front of them. There was a time when people only mentioned your name with laughter attached to it. They looked at your struggles like proof that you would never become anything meaningful. Every mistake you made became entertainment for people who had never faced the kind of battles you were fighting inside your mind. They judged your current situation as if it defined your entire future. To them, you were just another dreamer, talking too big, aiming too high, and reaching for things they believed someone like you could never touch. They saw your failures, but ignored your effort. They saw your delays, but ignored your determination. They watched you fall, but never paid attention to how many times you stood back up, alone. What they never understood is that the strongest people are often created in silence. Strength is not built when life is easy. It is built in the moments where everything feels impossible and you still decide to continue. While they were busy doubting your future, you were slowly transforming through every painful lesson life forced you to learn. Every rejection carved wisdom into your character. Every betrayal taught you independence. Every lonely night strengthened the part of you that no longer needed approval from anyone else. You learned how to survive disappointment without losing your vision. You learned how to keep moving forward even when nobody clapped for your progress. And most importantly, you learned that sometimes the people who laugh at your dreams are simply terrified of seeing you achieve them. There were moments when the pressure almost destroyed you. Times when exhaustion sat so heavily on your shoulders that quitting seemed easier than continuing. You questioned your worth. You questioned your purpose. You questioned whether all the sacrifice would ever lead anywhere meaningful. But deep inside, there was a fire that refused to go out. A part of you understood that greatness is never handed to people who give up the moment life becomes difficult. So you kept going, quietly, patiently, relentlessly. You stopped announcing your moves and started focusing on your growth. You stopped trying to convince people to believe in you because you realized belief means nothing without action. Day by day, while nobody noticed, you were building a version of yourself stronger than the person they once mocked. The pain changed you, the struggle sharpened you, the failures humbled you, and the loneliness taught you how powerful a focused mind can become. Eventually, the results began to speak louder than the opinions that once tried to bury you. The same people who laughed at your ambition suddenly became silent when they saw your rise becoming real. The same voices that once doubted you started repeating your name in rooms you were never expected to enter. And that is the most powerful kind of success, when your growth becomes impossible to deny. Not because you sought revenge, but because you refused to let negativity define your destiny. You turned criticism into motivation. You turned setbacks into preparation. You turned pain into purpose. Now your presence carries the weight of every battle you survived. You walk differently because you know what it feels like to have nothing but determination keeping you alive. You speak differently because every word comes from experience, not fantasy. People feel your energy now because they can sense the resilience behind your silence. And the truth that troubles them most is realizing they underestimated someone who never stopped believing in themselves, even during the darkest moments. They called you a joke because they only saw the struggle, not the transformation taking place within you. But now your name has become something they cannot escape. It stands as proof that the people who are laughed at today can become the ones remembered tomorrow. Because greatness often begins with rejection, grows through suffering, and rises from the exact pain that was meant to destroy it. They saw your struggles and assumed they were witnessing the end of your story. Every failure became another reason for them to doubt you. Every setback became proof in their minds that you were not capable of becoming anything greater. They laughed at your dreams because your ambition made them uncomfortable. People often mock what they cannot understand, and your vision was far beyond the limits of their thinking. They judged you for where you started without realizing that beginnings are never meant to look powerful. At that time, all they could see was someone trying, failing, and trying again. They never saw the war happening inside you. They never saw the pressure of carrying dreams too heavy for your circumstances. They never saw the nights where exhaustion almost convinced you to quit. While the world slept peacefully, you were fighting battles within your own mind, questioning whether your sacrifices would ever matter. Yet even during your weakest moments, something inside you refused to surrender completely. Deep down, you knew that pain was shaping you into someone stronger than the version of yourself people laughed at. Every insult became fuel. Every rejection became a lesson. Every disappointment taught you how to survive without depending on anyone's approval. Slowly, you stopped caring about proving yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you focused on becoming better every single day. You learned how to stay disciplined even when motivation disappeared. You learned how to keep moving forward even when nobody noticed your progress. That is where real strength is born, not in moments of comfort, but in moments where you continue despite the fear, despite the doubt, and despite the loneliness. Most people only respect success after it becomes visible, but they never respect the sacrifice it takes to create it. They never understand the cost of becoming stronger. They only see the results at the end, not the pain hidden behind them. While others spent their time talking about you, you spent your time rebuilding yourself piece by piece. You turned your silence into focus. You turned your anger into discipline. You turned your failures into preparation for something bigger than anyone expected. And over time, the person they mocked slowly disappeared. In its place stood someone sharper, wiser, and impossible to break. Your mindset changed because suffering forced you to grow beyond your old limitations. You no longer chased validation because you realized the opinions of doubters hold no power over a person who truly believes in their purpose. You became dangerous in the most powerful way possible, calm under pressure, focused under stress, and determined even in darkness. Then came the moment they never expected. The same people who once dismissed you began hearing your name everywhere. The same voices that once laughed suddenly became quiet because reality proved them wrong. Your growth became impossible to ignore. Your success became too loud to deny. And the truth that hit them hardest was realizing you achieved everything they said you never could. But your victory was never just about proving them wrong. It was about proving to yourself that no amount of criticism can stop a person who refuses to quit. That is why your presence feels different now. Every scar carries a lesson. Every struggle carries wisdom. Every step carries the memory of what you survived to get here. People look at you differently because they can sense the resilience built through hardship. They see confidence, but they do not fully understand the pain that created it. They called you a joke because they only judged your beginning. They never imagined that the same person they underestimated would rise with enough strength to become unforgettable. Now your name echoes in places you once dreamed about entering. And every time they hear it, they are reminded of one powerful truth. The people the world laughs at today can become the people the world cannot escape tomorrow. They looked at you and saw weakness. They saw the failures, the setbacks, the moments where life knocked you down, and they assumed that was all you would ever be. To them, you were just another person with impossible dreams and no real chance of reaching them. Every time you spoke about your goals, they smirked like your ambition was a joke meant to entertain them. They doubted your ability because they measured your future using your current situation. They never understood that some of the strongest people start their journey with nothing except pain, hunger, and a reason to prove the world wrong. While they laughed at your struggles, you were carrying battles inside you that nobody could see. You fought through disappointment in silence. You endured sleepless nights filled with uncertainty, fear, and pressure, heavy enough to break most people. There were moments when you questioned yourself, moments when failure felt so close that giving up almost seemed easier than continuing. But even during those dark moments, there was something inside you that refused to surrender. A quiet fire kept burning in your soul, reminding you that your story was not over yet. Instead of letting the criticism destroy you, you allowed it to shape you. Every insult became motivation. Every rejection became another lesson. Every painful experience forced you to grow stronger than the version of yourself that once needed validation from others. Slowly, your mindset changed. You stopped wasting energy trying to convince people to believe in you because you realized belief means nothing without action. You became obsessed with growth instead of attention. While others spent their time talking, judging, and doubting, you spent your time working in silence. Day after day, you kept pushing forward, even when nobody noticed your progress. That is the difference between people who dream and people who become unstoppable. Dreamers talk about success, but warriors build it through sacrifice, discipline, and relentless effort. The pain you survived gave you a strength that comfort could never create. Every setback sharpened your focus. Every lonely season taught you independence. Every failure humbled you enough to keep learning and hungry enough to keep climbing higher. You learned how to stand alone without breaking. You learned how to keep faith in yourself when nobody else did. And eventually, all the silent work started turning into visible results. The same people who once mocked your vision suddenly began paying attention to your rise. The same voices that once laughed at your name now repeat it with disbelief and respect. Your success became impossible to ignore because it was built on years of struggle they never saw. What hurts them most is realizing they underestimated someone who never stopped fighting for their future, even when life gave them every reason to quit. But your transformation is deeper than success alone. It is the mindset you gained through surviving pain that truly changed everything. You no longer fear rejection because you have already survived worse. You no longer fear failure because you understand it is part of growth. You no longer seek approval because you discovered your worth does not depend on anyone's opinion. That is why your presence feels powerful now. You walk with the confidence of someone who earned every lesson through hardship. People can sense the resilience in your silence and the hunger in your eyes. They see the strength, but they do not fully understand the suffering that created it. They called you a joke because they only saw your beginning, never realizing they were watching the early stages of someone destined to rise beyond every limit placed on them. And now your name has become something they cannot escape, because your journey stands as proof that the people who are doubted the most often become the ones remembered forever.